So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success story series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Daniel Evans, who's owner at TriFit. And Daniel, firstly, thank you for coming on board and spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, TriFit, what you do, how you help people, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much, Chris, for having me.
Welcome.
So, yeah, as you said, I'm Dan Evans, owner and founder of TriFit. So, we are a premium triathlon apparel and accessories company based in Yorkshire. We predominantly sell award-winning tri-suits and goggles. And then just for people that don't really know what a tri-suit is, because not everyone does, it's an item of clothing that you would wear from start to finish during a triathlon. So you would swim in it, you would cycle in it, then you would run in it as well. So it's a highly technical product. As a business, we sell globally. We've got distributors and retailers in the EU. We've got them in the Middle East and Asia. We sell to roughly about 70 countries around the world
No.
from Weatherby. And yeah, we're growing pretty quick and picking up the awards along the way, and it's pretty exciting at the moment.
Wonderful. And as we said before we started, all happening here in Yorkshire, just outside Wetherby, and you're delivering across the world. What a great story.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not from here. I'm originally from Weymouth in Dorset, but I lived in Dubai for 15 years. And when we moved back to the UK, we just found ourselves in Wetherby. I had a job. My background's selling high-end cars. So I had a job up here and we just stayed. We absolutely love it. We
Brilliant.
love Wetherby. Business is based in Wetherby and I don't see ourselves moving.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, look, you've alluded a little bit to it, Dan, but if you perhaps tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got into business and why this particular one for you.
Yeah, not a problem at all. So I spent a long time traveling all over the world. I've lived in multiple countries, Japan, Australia, Cyprus, and then I spent majority of my adult life, to be honest, in Dubai.
Okay.
Really, really enjoyed Dubai. I still kind of call Dubai home. A lot of my friends are still out there. And then my background is in very, very high-end cars, very expensive cars, and high net worth individuals. So
Yeah.
sort of servicing the needs of very wealthy people. And then through that, I learned a lot about brand value, how to create value in a brand, sales, and things like this. And then to start TriFit, it's an interesting story. I hurt my knee playing football, as most British lads do at some point. And after I had the surgery, I was lying in the hospital when I needed to set myself a goal to kind of continue with the rehab, as it were.
Yes.
And I said, right, I'm gonna do an Ironman. You know, it was a big target, and I thought
Brilliant.
that's going to give me the focus to work towards. So anyway, I did the Ironman. I think it was 2017 or 18 in Dubai. Got to the end, was wearing this tri suit that was meant to be the best in the market. Came home, just was really frustrated with this product that I'd worn. I didn't think it was up to scratch. One thing led to another, and yeah, I kind of did some drawings, got some samples, and then I did the classic where I had a full-time job and a family, and I used to just basically pull all-nighters, just sit up all night
Wow.
trying to start this business. Started with one product, ordered 10, ordered 20, ordered 50, and I've managed to grow a big global business off the back of it. So I never really meant to start the business, but there was a tipping point where what I was doing was clearly going to start gaining the momentum
Yes.
needed to be a successful business. And yeah, and then that was kind of before COVID. Got into COVID. I got made redundant twice during COVID, which was
Right.
pretty tough. But luckily, I always had in the background the tri-fit that I was working on.
Yep.
So I always kind of had this little nugget that was, we were
Yep.
going to be okay. And luckily, after the end of COVID, sport and fitness and apparel kind of, started doing really, really well.
Yep.
And we are still riding that wave now.
Amazing. Amazing. And clearly triathlon Ironman is a very significant growing sport in popularity and coverage,
Yeah.
TV coverage quite regularly. So must be a really great time to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah, so it's fantastic. I mean, When we started TriFit, there was a few things that we wanted to look at, and where I'd been in the car industry, it's not always filled with the most positive people, shall we say.
Okay.
It can be a little bit cutthroat in
Yeah.
car sales. So I wanted to work in an industry that was fit, healthy, positive. People that do triathlon, they get up at 5 in the morning and go for a
Yes.
run. These are people that go up and go at it and go and get it. The other thing that I love about triathlon is it's a real balance between males and females. So even if
Okay.
you look in the Olympics now, they do a mixed relay, which is superb.
Yes.
Men and women
Brilliant.
competing together on the same team.
Yeah.
You go to any major Ironman event or any sort of even local triathlon, and you'll see a really good balance of males and females. And because I have two daughters, that was always very important to me. And I'm a big advocate for females in sport.
Yeah.
But the other thing I think with triathlon, and it was kind of how I started with it, it's a bucket list thing. It's a real life achievement. An
Yeah.
Ironman or half Ironman distance is a long way to
Yes.
race, and people put sometimes years of their life, years of dedication into completing this one race. So it's really quite fulfilling that they choose us for their main product and that they choose us for their swim goggles
Yeah.
or whatever it may be. And it's just really fulfilling to be part of that journey. And that was an industry, and that was a big part of why we started TriFit and kind of, are still
Brilliant.
in this business.
It's a very powerful
It is.
brand for
Yeah.
the sport itself, and obviously they're therefore TriFit. Because just for anyone that's not watching, the distances of an Ironman, they are quite incredible.
Yeah, well, I mean, a full Ironman, cool, what is it? It's 3.8 kilometer swim, 180 kilometer bike, followed by a full marathon. So pro athletes will blow your mind. They will
Yeah.
complete this in, a lot of them well under sort of 7.5 hours. They come off the
Amazing.
bike and then they run a sub 2:30 marathon, which is superhuman. However, your normal age grouper, and when I say age grouper, kind of like your amateur racer that is just
Yeah.
just doing it as an achievement. Sometimes it can be 15, 16 hours that they're racing for,
Incredible.
non-stop all the way through.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it's
So,
impressive to watch.
oh yeah, 100%. You can say, well, it was probably over to say I've never done one, but I do know a couple of people that have, and it's
Yeah.
just amazing. Just that mental toughness that must come with it. Clearly, with physical fitness is key, but I would imagine the mental toughness of being able to continue to drive yourself forward for, as you say, 15 hours must
Well,
be quite amazing.
it's mental resilience, but it's about setting yourself a target and going and achieving it. It's about potentially learning something new. Triathlon's not just a singular sport; it's kind of
Yeah,
three sports wrapped up. So it's swimming, cycling, running. A lot of people when they take on the challenge, they can't even swim 5 lengths without stopping, and then they go and swim a big swim in the sea. And it's a bucket list thing for a lot of people to do. And then what you will find as well is a lot of people get obsessed. A lot of people get into it, and then they find their
yeah,
thing, and that's what they're into, and they love the variety and the training. So yeah, it's impressive.
amazing. Well, speaking of sort of resilience and overcoming things, what looking up back in the business growth, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome so far, Dan?
Yeah, so I had one really, really big speed bump, shall we say, which I
Yes.
think most
Yeah.
businesses had. So I originally had a business partner in the business when it was in its real infancy,
Yeah.
basically when it wasn't a business. We had no idea kind of
Yeah.
what we were doing or where it was going. And I had a business partner in the business. Now, I have an NDA, so there's only so much that
Yeah.
I can
That's
actually
fine.
say about what happened. But
Yeah.
let's just say he didn't necessarily have the best interests of the business at heart.
Yeah.
He kind of got found out doing some things that he shouldn't have been doing. And yeah, basically, there was a bit of a kind of a legal battle for, it was well over 6 months. At the time, I didn't have a job, wasn't earning any money. I was like coming out in stress hives, having to go to the doctor. It was really,
Right.
really quite brutal, but I came out the end of it. I came out with the business, and it really gave me the kind of the bit between the teeth that I was going to prove to everyone that I could do this, and that,
Brilliant.
you know, should have been hanging on my coattails because I was really driving the business at the time. So it was a bit of a surprise. And that, you know, if I look back on it now, to be honest, it was the best thing that ever happened to the
Brilliant.
business. That without wanting to sound arrogant, that I got the control and that I could do what I wanted
Yes.
and what I envisaged for the business, and I could drive it forward with that vision in mind. And I would say I've been proven right because of where we are now and what we're
Yeah.
doing. But yeah, there was a time where the business basically didn't exist, and it almost looked like it wasn't ever going to exist again. So yeah, if we're talking about challenges, it doesn't really get much bigger. But what that does do is mean that anything else that you come up against is small
Yeah.
fry, and you know you can overcome it, and you know you can get through it, and you can push through. And what you're doing, you know, you can have confidence in it.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It's a lesson I've learned over time working with different businesses, and while what you're describing sounds sort of the extreme end, is
Yeah,
one thing I've become to realise is no two people in partnership, or even three or four people in partnership, can statistical want the same things for the future. That it
correct.
and yet we sort of let's just work together. We'll split the business down the middle, you know, and it'll all be great. It's my proposition is as soon as we can, let's plan the, the exit, the
Yeah,
end goal,
yeah,
because people's personal end goals are statistically impossible to be the same. Therefore,
yeah,
creating a business that can deliver on the same people. Now, it sounds, we won't go into detail that there were other things going on that
yeah,
are totally outside of that generality. But
yeah.
without those conversations at the start about where we want to end up, then it's almost bound that we'll have some form of misalignment. I appreciate this is quite an
Yeah,
extreme model, if that makes sense.
I think you're 100% right in what you're saying. And funnily enough, sort of after or out the other end of that, it's amazing how many people I speak to that have had similar
Yeah.
scenarios. Just so many people, and I would suggest the same. I would suggest the kind of the conversation where you sit down and go, right, well, let's have a go at this. Well, let's agree this now. Let's really kind of agree this, make sure that
Absolutely.
we're aligned. You know, what we had, where we started so casually because we never meant to do it. It never meant to happen
Yes.
to gain momentum.
Yeah.
It was always so casual. But yeah, look, you can all you just put positive spin on it. It happened. It's part of the tri-fit history. It's part of my background. It's made me more resilient and more determined.
Brilliant. Love it. And on a sort of a positive side, whether it comes from negative or not, negative situations, what would you say your biggest learnings about growing a successful business are, Dan?
Oh wow. I mean, every day, every single day, there is something. I mean, I'm one of those founders, and large majority of founders are going to be saying, I've worn every hat,
Yeah.
every single hat in this business. You name it, I've done it. I know every single inch. And there's things that you come across. And do you know one of the ones that I always mention, and I got asked this last week, funnily enough, it's things like GTIN barcodes. Oh my God, who knew that was such a minefield? I started looking into it and I just could not believe how complicated, and you're probably laughing because you probably know, but there's things like that. And I think the most difficult thing with growing a business is just the unknowns.
Yeah.
Now, sales, I can sell.
Yeah.
I can create a brand. I can create brand value. I'm great at relationships with suppliers and
Yeah.
customers and all of it. I can. I've got a good eye for imagery. I've got a good eye for products. All of these sorts of things. But then again, we've just set up the European sort of arm of our
Right.
business. So we've just set up a BV in Holland for TriFit so that we can ship within the EU without
Yeah.
the duty and stuff. Just like, oh, it's just trying to set up another business in another in another country
Yes.
when you've got a small team and you don't really know what you're doing. So it's the unknowns. But I think if I knew now, or sorry, if I knew then when I was starting a business what I knew now, I almost wouldn't have started. So I think sometimes you've got to be blissfully
Yeah,
unaware, because if you did know, you just wouldn't do it. And I think that
really good
kind of,
point.
not blasé, but like I say, blissfully unaware almost helps you, because you just gung ho and you just go for it.
It's a really good point. Is that if you knew all the challenges, heartaches,
Oh,
the things that
yeah,
happen, many people probably wouldn't.
yeah,
I remember I did have a significant challenge in my business, and I remember having sold the business, and for 2 or 3 years afterwards, I honestly would have. I just look in the mirror most mornings, and I would have honestly given the money back
yeah,
to have got the 3 years that were pretty challenging in that
yeah,
in that life back. For it's an okay story now. It's a long time ago. Quite happy about it, but at the time it was like I didn't really want to go through that,
yeah.
and so it's a really good. But that's why only 4% of the population own businesses. It is
And
right and
that's
proper.
and that's right. And there's a saying that someone says to me fairly regularly: people want what you've got, not how you've got it. And that's the difference. A
Yes.
lot of people are not prepared to go through what you
Yeah.
have to go through. And I even seen, it was a YouTube video. I've seen it on social media fairly recently, and it was someone basically sat across a billionaire, and this person was kind of having a pop at this billionaire for having that much money. And he just turned around and he just said, I was willing to do what you're not willing to do. And I'm still to this day willing to do what you're not willing to do. And
Yeah.
that is why I'm in this position. And I think there is an element of that. I'm not saying that kind of is like across the board, but yeah, you've got to be able to put yourself through those situations and come out the other side. And that's a positive thing.
Bang on. Yeah. No, completely agree. And Dan, I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm just keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that is business, sport, life in general.
Yeah.
Who's the biggest impact on you?
Yeah. So I kind of split this into two. So I always grew up playing football, played football to a pretty decent level. I was always part of a team
Yes.
from the age of about 5 or 6. And when I was in Dubai, the football was fantastic. We played in some great teams, and I was very fortunate that playing in those teams in Dubai, just by the nature of being in Dubai, you've got some fairly big hitters, and by big hitters I mean sort of like big business owners,
Yeah.
people in big positions in big jobs. So even from a young age, I was quite lucky that I was surrounded by people that were well versed in business. So sort of playing football and being in that team environment, I always had good role models, whether it was coaches or managers or whether it was just people that I played with. So
Yeah.
that's one part. But then I'm also very lucky that my brother is very successful in business, very high up in the business that he works for, very
Brilliant.
high up, does very, very well. Anytime I have questions or
Brilliant.
wobbles or just need someone to give you that
Yeah.
sanity check, I call my brother. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a mentor, but it's that type of thing
Yeah.
where, I can talk to him. But then I'm also very lucky that my wife's sister, so my sister-in-law, again, very high up in the bank that she works for. And you'll know this. Some people's brains just work in a different way. They
Yes.
just tune into different things. Now, I'm very product, brand, visual, all of this sort of
Yeah.
stuff. And her brain works in a very data analysis,
Yeah.
forecasting, run rates, spreadsheets. And again, I sanity check against her. She holds me accountable. So I'm very lucky to have two very close family members that are
Brilliant.
always available. They know me well enough to be able to be fairly blunt and brutal with me, and I'll be able to
Yeah.
take it on the chin. So yeah, the two parts,
Brilliant.
obviously being parts of teams and being coached and understanding team
Yes.
dynamics, but then having those people that I can call upon is very important.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And you've mentioned one quote already, but any other favourite quotes or sayings that you catch yourself using on a regular basis?
Yeah, there is one, and I'm not necessarily sure it relates, but I would repeatedly say to my wife that people get the most angry when they've got no one to be angry at but themselves. So you'll hear me say that fairly regularly. Yeah, like I said, the one that I get told quite often is, work. But there's another one where, yeah, work on the business, not in the business, which I'm trying to be my mantra at the moment because I find myself bogged down
Yeah.
in the nitty gritty in the day to day, and I'm not necessarily spending the time and energy
Yeah.
growing and pushing the business forward. So those are a couple that come to mind. Yeah,
Brilliant. There's one similar to your first one that I love that I was told a few years back, and you see it. I see it so often now is that people see their own faults in other people,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
you just see it all the time, and it's really helped me to go, okay, you're actually talking about yourself there.
yeah,
You're because that's how you would operate. You're seeing that you're perceiving my actions as something that's not um, my way, and yeah, and I think it's quite interesting that you do that on a regular basis,
yeah,
it's interesting you say about working not in it. The challenge I think most people have, and I do a lot of work with people on this, is that working in it and being touching everything, being responsible for everything. That's how you start and
yeah,
establish a successful business. So the business being about us is the absolute right way to be in those first stages, whether that's
yeah,
a few weeks or months or all years. The challenge is while we once we've got the level of success, if we don't start to work on it and we become the bottleneck. Because
yeah,
if the business is
yeah,
dependent on us, whether it's by action or decision, we end up being the bottleneck, and it's a really difficult thing because it literally is thinking 180 degrees to how I thought to get
yeah,
me here.
yeah.
So
It,
it's
it's something I'm going through at the moment. It's about relinquishing control and decision making, but
yeah,
having the trust in the people that you
yes,
employ to trust them. I think it's Richard Branson, isn't it, that says I employ people to tell me what to do, not for me to tell them what to do.
yep,
And I think that's a very good one to keep in mind because I'm not an expert in everything. I'm pretty good in certain areas, but there
yep,
is a lot of people that are better than me in other areas. So makes no sense me telling them what to do. They need to be guiding me. So I think that's one. But it's about relinquishing control. But interestingly, in the industry I'm from, and I kind of keep getting pushed for it a little bit. They're very interested in founders' stories. They're very interested in the founders being front and center with the business and all over the social media and the ads and stuff like that. And I've always stepped back from this because at the end of the day, my end goal is to sell this business.
yep,
I'm going to sell this, and I'm going to
brilliant,
be sipping pina coladas in my villa in Ibiza, and that's what I want to do. And I've
brilliant.
always been very conscious that if I'm the face of it, it's very difficult for me to then become detached when the time comes to sort of
Okay,
sell the
yep.
business. So yeah, I'm stepping back, but it's about relinquishing the control.
Yeah, it is an interesting one, and again, there's an internal struggle, but as you say, there's the external
Yeah,
struggle of appearing to be the founder. But I think Branson himself is a good model of
he is.
he is a Brandon himself, but he clearly doesn't fly any of the planes or drive any of the
Yeah,
trains, or
yeah,
and it's just getting that point that we all feel I think most people feel some allegiance to something like him, but
yeah,
clearly he's doing things differently than most of us. And
yeah.
and recommendation wise, any favorite books or podcasts that you can recommend?
So I'll be honest, I listen mainly to Talk Sport, so
Right,
not so many podcasts. I mean, I do listen to a few. So when I listen to music or podcasts, it tends to actually be more about the switching off and turning your brain
yep,
off from the business.
yep,
Book wise, there's one called Morning Miracle.
okay,
Um, I need to take it on board a little bit more, but it's about kind of like winning it in your day at the very, very start of your day, getting up, getting at it. I'm not the best at it. Triathletes in general tend to be pretty good at it because they tend to
yes,
get up early and train. So Morning Miracle's one of them. And then there's another, and I can't remember what it's called, but I refer to it quite often. And it's about basically picking your playing field and playing to win. And I can't remember the author's name is or the book title, but it's about knowing what you're good at,
yep,
almost picking your lane and
yep,
being good at that. And now with what I do, when I'm looking at products, I'm always looking at it going, is that my playing field? can I compete?
Great.
Can I play to win in that specific product? And if I think yes, I can, bang, that product's in. If that product is not my playing field, then it's a
Yeah.
bit of a curveball. Then no, I don't play that game because I can't play to win.
Love it.
I can't remember the name though.
No, thank you. If we do remember between now and publishing this, we'll bob it in the description.
Yeah,
It's interesting actually because there's a guy called Brian Tracy and one of his propositions that I really align to is that the most successful people, teams, and organizations are the ones where most people spend most of their time doing the three things they really love and they're really good at.
yeah,
Everything else is delegated in some way. Because if we spend our time doing the things we tend to love the things we're good at and be good at the things we love. It's a bit of a no-brainer, but it's a virtuous place to be. It's
yeah,
like I think the challenge is most of us can feel guilty, and it's like, well, it can't be this much fun. It can't be this
yeah, yeah,
easy because it's fun
yeah,
and easy. It's like, well, what?
yeah.
But there's some sort of thing holding us back that I should be doing stuff that I don't enjoy. But
Well,
why?
I got told once that you just get an A4 piece of paper and you just put a line down the middle. And on one side, you write everything that you enjoy in the business. And on the other side, you write everything that you do not like
Yep,
about your sort of daily job.
yep.
Get someone else to do it.
Get rid.
Get
100%.
rid. Get someone else to do it. Get someone that enjoys it. Get someone that knows what they're doing. And you concentrate on that because that's where your heart is. That's where your head is. And that's where you're best placed to be able to drive the business.
Definitely, 100%, and it really is interesting how many people I've talked to this about, and it's like there's an expectation that a big chunk of running a business has to be painful and unpleasant. It's like it's almost like
Yeah.
oh no, I have to do this because it's like, but I think the other thing for people to remember really clearly is everything I don't like, somebody else will love.
Yeah.
I often hear people say, "Well, I need to get rid of that," but if I gave it to somebody else, either they wouldn't enjoy it, or they're too busy. And for me, it's like treat them as a grown up, ask them, would they enjoy
Yeah.
it? Do they have enough time? And if the answer to those questions is yes to both, then get rid because it's like
Yeah.
and just do the stuff we're gonna. And just sticking on the learning front, then, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
Um, Resilience is one thing. Um, I would say, it sounds almost a little bit cocky or arrogant, but I've got unwavering confidence in myself.
Great.
That's just a trait I've had for quite a while. So I sometimes say that people don't know what they want until I tell them what they want. Which I don't know whether that's the right thing or not, but I've got a confidence that that I'm right, that I'm doing the right thing, I'm
Yeah.
moving in the right direction, and basically come along for the ride. If you want to come along, let's go.
Right.
So I've learned that. I've learned a few things that I'm not so good at. Um, I'm one of these people that likes to box off everything that I start. So I'm not so good at sort of starting something, moving on to someone else, moving on to someone
Yeah.
else, and coming back. I'm like, I want that done and dusted and ticked off the list. So I need to get a little bit better at that. When I first started, I wasn't necessarily the best at listening. Um, I've got a lot better at it now. I'm quite happy for people to tell me I'm wrong now, and I will listen and I will take on opinions, whereas I was really quite gung ho to start with. So yeah, positives and negatives that I've
Love
learned,
it.
but I think we're always learning. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, one thing I think I need to get better at is kind of decompressing, de-stressing,
Yes.
leaving work behind. And I think we discussed earlier, I'm moving into a new, bigger unit. I think that's going to help. Where I deal a lot with China, but I also deal a lot with America, my phone is like a Christmas tree from the before I wake up
I
till
can imagine.
as I'm going to bed. So I need to kind of compartmentalize work and home life. But as you grow in a business, you push and you push and you push. We're at the point now where we have staff, we have more people. So I'm trying to get a little bit better at that. But yeah, I mean, I could sit here all day and tell you the things I'm good at and not so good at and what I've learned and stuff. But yeah, those are a few of them.
Brilliant. I've got just a couple of things. I found a definition that I liked of or I produced it myself, I think. But difference between confidence and arrogance for me is confidence is I'm the best. Arrogance is I'm better than you. Now, one might
Yeah,
appear to be
I like that.
equal to the other. I don't not comparing myself to anybody. I'm just saying I'm the best, and
Yeah,
that's okay. That's just ultimate confidence, and therefore, I'd expect people to follow my lead. Um, but I think it's really fascinating what you said about those things, and it's just like we have to have that unwavering confidence, don't we? Because
yeah,
if if not, but it's also being open to other people's point of view. I've loved the phrase for a long time. I think it's Stephen Covey phrase, which is listen to understand rather than respond,
yeah,
which I
yeah,
really like. And
yeah,
I saw that taken a step further a little bit recently. And there's a video of a young Harvard graduate, I think it's Harvard or Yale, quite recently, and he talks about it's a really very good speech, quite entertaining. But the point about it was he describes this idea of l- listen as if you might be wrong.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I just think that softens that whole point because it just opens up my world personally to those things. Now, can that sit alongside unwavering confidence? I think it can because I think the confidence we built is through the things we've learned, the things we've understood
Yeah,
over time, and so it's just being open to it. But it's quite interesting because I thought, well, that really opens it up for me because I find myself sometimes thinking I know and tolerating that somebody's telling me
yeah,
something like that I know could be wrong, and then go, well, what if I'm wrong? That's
yeah,
that, that's interesting. So we've talked about this a little bit already, Dan, but we have a definition of a true business in Action Coach, which is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owner. And,
yeah.
and I'm keen to know how you feel about that as a definition and where you are, would you say, on that journey, if it's something you want to achieve.
Yeah, so we're not there yet. If I took myself out of the business, there would be a lot of things that would probably
Yeah,
drop at the wayside. What I would say is we are conscious of that. We are making
brilliant.
decisions like we discussed before. I think I've got one, maybe even two members of staff coming on full time
Great.
in the near future to join the team that I've already got. So one of the things when I started the business was I always said I wanted to be able to run it from sat on a sun lounger with a phone and a laptop because that's the kind of
Brilliant.
dream lifestyle, isn't it? That you can run a
Absolutely.
business from a laptop and a phone and be sat by a pool somewhere. So I do actually keep that in my head and I do drive towards that. And a lot of the decisions, this new unit that we're in, the new people that we're bringing on is going to be all around freeing me up and creating that kind of like a barrier from a lot of the nonsense that comes in so that I don't have to deal with it.
Yes.
But look, as a business, we have no debt. We don't take on any credit other than the normal sort of
Yeah.
Amex card that you pay off every month type thing. But we have no business loans. I own the business 100%. We're hitting pretty good numbers at the moment and growing and growing and growing and
Brilliant.
growing. The business is very profitable. We're putting a lot of money back into the business. So numbers wise, we're looking pretty healthy and we're going in the right direction. But operationally, I think we can get better. But that comes with time and that
Yeah.
comes with a little bit of energy and thought. But that's the sort of that's where we're aiming for.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And final question for you. What advice would you give to an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that, Dan?
Well, yeah. Do you know what? It's interesting because most people would presume that the obvious answer is to kind of, think of something or get products, put them on Amazon or start an Etsy business or, do a Shopify website. And that's just not what I would advise at all. So when I just turned 18, I moved to Dubai on my own. No one
Right.
knew where Dubai was. And I
Wow.
went to be a lifeguard and I was earning £1 an hour and lived in a one bedroom apartment with a Palestinian, an Iranian, and two South Africans, and I had the best time ever. After
Brilliant.
that, I moved to Japan. Then I moved to Cyprus. I did a season in Ayia Napa just to go and have some fun. Then I moved to
Yeah.
Australia, backpacked around Australia. Then I went around Southeast Asia. Then I did all of these amazing things. And I did so much of this. I lived in Dubai again and climbed the Himalayas and all sorts of stuff. And I did all of this before I was 23, 24.
Wow.
And if I went back, I would just say, just get out there. Just get out there. Just go and experience it. Just go to the concert. Go backpacking. Go on holiday with your mates. Because what I see now is so many people that are in the daily grind that have not experienced so many of these things, and they start to yearn for these things that they've not had. And kids get in the way, and business gets in
Yeah.
the way. And then you talk about we do it in our retirement. Well, my dad was in the Navy for nearly 35 years and passed away about 6 months or a year into his retirement. And it's for me, it's like, no, you've got to go and do these things. So if I went back to 18-year-old me, I would just say, crack on, go and do what
Brilliant.
you did, because I look back at it now and I'm so thankful that I did all of these unbelievable
Brilliant.
things. But then you still have time to start a business, be successful. So yeah, I would say get out there, travel, experience things, just do as much as you can, because you can always, work towards a career. You can always start a
Yeah.
business later on.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I 100% agree. Just grasp life by the throat and just do
Yeah,
whatever ever works. And a number of people I found, and perhaps you would consider yourself in this bracket that has followed a passion over time
yeah.
and is very successful in a business that surrounds what you do. And until you know what that is, it's difficult to create that. So,
Well,
uh,
I was
100%.
always confident that something would present
Yes.
itself. Do you know what I mean? Like something's going to
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
up. It may not have done, but I would have been all right with that. I would, I would have still been able to do things. I didn't really have a proper job until I was about 30. And I started working for Range Rover in Dubai selling
Right.
cars.
Yeah.
And, you know, fairly quickly I learned that I didn't want to be working 6 days a week. I didn't really like working for other people. I didn't really like some of the pressure that was applied to you and all of these sorts of things. And it just sort of maneuvered my focus. And that's where I kind of started looking for different opportunities. And something presents itself. I mean,
Yeah.
even when I was 33, 34, if you'd said, 7 or 8 or 6, 7 years down the line, you're going to be owning a big international, well, not so big, but an international sportswear apparel brand, I would have laughed you out of the room. There's no chance. But here I am, and it's just because something presented
Brilliant.
itself, and I went after it.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, as I say, I think that's sound advice for anybody. It's just trusting yourself, isn't it? And
Yeah,
trusting yourself that you'll find your way. And I do my best to give that advice to our daughters. Funnily enough, I've got one that's went straight into very successful career. She's only 23, but she's already in
yeah,
the work. And then I've got one that's currently just off the island of Komodo. Um,
amazing.
yeah, so it's and again the same with her. Just follow her dreams, and she'll find it
Perfect.
in the right way. Dan, it's been
Perfect.
fascinating talking to you today, and I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time. And for anyone watching that would like to get in touch with you or TriFit, what's the best way of doing that?
Best thing to do, go on the website. So it's try-fitathletic.com, or go on our social media, which is try_fit athletic. Ping a message. The team will get it across to me. I'm always happy to engage with people, give advice, or I'm always looking for sort of different angles to work with other businesses. So yeah, feel free to get in touch.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, look, it'll be great to swim by another 6, 12 months and just see where you are, if you filled the offices by then or not. But
Yeah,
for
yeah.
now, thank you
Or
so
I'm
much for
off,
your time.
or I'm sipping pina coladas in the villa.
Bang on, bang on.
Yeah.
Well, look, thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.